Good afternoon and welcome to another time out on Book Splash, coming to you from Splash FM 105.5 Ibadan. Let's seize the moment occasioned by the stay-at-home order of the government as we turn page after page of good books today. I am Michael Olatunbosun. The book on the table today attempts to provide answers to why we have not been able to solve the problems of our country, Nigeria. The book also attempts to provide suggestions on how we can retrace our steps and evolve a nation of our dreams. The book is titled The Pragmatics of Real Change, Thoughts on How to Realize a New and Better Nigeria, authored by Jude Feranmi and published in 2018 by Gihon Spring Transnational Limited, Lagos. The author, Jude Feranmi, is a development social worker, political advocate, and former national youth leader of COA Party. Jude is the convener of Raising New Voices Initiative and co-founder of Founding Networks. The author, in the preface of the book, opens with a submission that one key point about the hazy future that Nigeria holds is the fact that no one has been asking the hard questions, especially about what we need to do to realize our aspirations of a new and better Nigeria. For the author, we seem to be short on ideas even though we appear to be able to identify our problems. Or do we? In the book, The Pragmatics of Real Change, the author's first chapter, Suffering and Smiling, takes a cue from the lyrics of Fela's song, Suffering and Smiling, as a metaphor of the Nigeria of today, even though that song was done over 45 years ago. The author thinks that nothing has changed and laments aloud that our people are still lacking the basic things of life. There is hunger in the land and clothing and shelter still remain unavailable. Jude Feranmi affirms, therefore, the United Nations definition of absolute poverty as a Nigerian reality. For him, many people in Nigeria just want to eke out a living. They just do not want to die. That's our odious reality. You're listening to Book Splash on Splash FM 105.5. And the book on the table is The Pragmatics of Real Change, Thoughts on How to Realize a New and Better Nigeria, written by Jude Feranmi. In this book, the author's mission is to understand what Nigeria's problems are. This foregrounding is necessary because for him, I quote, "You cannot afford not to understand what the problem is, its cause and effects, and what sustains the root cause," end of quote, before you begin to proffer solutions. Thus, the catalogue of the problems that beset the nation's poor and helpless continue. So the poor cannot get justice, and there is inequitable distribution of justice. Even the fact that you have got education is not enough, but being skilled enough. In this mix, the author avers that there is the assumption that we are resilient and can survive any condition, but this is false. He states that our resilience is false and rooted in our history of not questioning our leaders and rulers, that our resilience is a product of resignation and cowardice. We have got used to suffering and smiling. In the book, Jude Feranmi insists that we also have a basic misconception of independence. Thus, for him, Africans and Nigerians never got independence from the colonial masters. He writes that unlike the Americans who fought for their own independence from the British, ours was just a demand for an end to colonial rule. I quote him now, "That was not independence, at least as evident as it is now. Both economically and politically, we are yet to be independent in the true sense of the word. We are still tied to the soles of the feet of our colonial masters, constantly begging them for one favor or the other." End of quote. So for the author, if things must change, we must properly identify the real problems as opposed to the symptoms. In the second chapter of this book, the author believes that our problems cannot be boxed into leadership or corruption or followership corners. In the chapter, A Cycle of Woes, the author insists that our country's problems are multifaceted. He says that we are soaked in a cycle of woes, and this cycle has been structured and systematized in such a way that it repeats itself and manifests its fruits from generation to generation. Until this cycle is broken, we are millions of years away from the Nigeria of our dreams. In this book, Jude Feranmi makes a couple of profound statements based on his analysis and understanding of the political and governance realms of the country. For instance, he claims that the notion of service is somewhat lost among the people. He avers that only the rich serve, although he sees this as a pretense because it is now an investment which changes forever the life of the one who gets into office. He also states that what we have essentially is a rule by the less qualified. This is what he called plutocracy. This rule by the less qualified makes it difficult for the best to join dirty politics, as they call it. They are therefore shipped out of the country or become religious and business leaders where their brilliance is applied. The author believes that this stifles development. For him, therefore, development can only be attained where people from different backgrounds, experts and technocrats come together to draft a vision and prescribe a path for the state. For this situation to happen, it must be realized without partisan considerations. The program is Book Splash on Splash FM 105.5 Ibadan, and the book on the table is The Pragmatics of Real Change, written by Adejuwon Jude Feranmi. In this book, the author decries the problem of political apathy and blames some religious dogma for this. He argues that, and I quote, "The people with the highest level of political apathy belong to the religious houses, and this is one of the major reasons why bad governance is the order of the day. The hypocrisy is one thing, the criticism is another." End of quote. The author also singles out the middle class, stating that the middle class's lack of interest in government, politics and policies is the major reason for bad governance. In the book, the author maintains that most Nigerians are not concerned about how to make the nation better. All that most people are after is a better life for themselves. And that's all. He writes, and I quote, "Our society gets worse by the day because there are only a few of us who now care about what society we live in, while others care about themselves." End of quote. But he reiterates the fact that the change we seek in this country is the one that can only be achieved if we are together in oneness of purpose. Listen to his position on this matter. I quote now, "The revolution and the change that we seek in our beloved country is not a one-man revolution. It is an everyman revolution. It's not a revolution that can be brought about by a tough president or a thinking one, nor can it be brought about by a supposedly learned and experienced politician, no matter how much he knows or how much he is experienced. We need to join hands together under one umbrella, with one accord, with one purpose and one vision. We need to come together and reason together as a nation. We need to drive this train together. We need all hands, irrespective of our tribes, ethnic groups, relations, language or ideology. We need one purpose team. We do not need the ever-increasing political non-governmental organizations that hope to get grants in achieving their aims, which has been turned into and is still another form of surviving the status quo and adapting to the situation, and an extensive collaboration of the ones that currently exist." End of quote. In what has become a recurring refrain in the book, Jude Feranmi avers that to effect any meaningful change in Nigeria, the middle class has to be fully involved, and he believes that we have to get the middle class on board in order to defeat the current kakistomobo plutocracy, which simply means the rule by the rich who have control over the society's resources, and the mob, which has control over violence, as well as the less qualified. I'm still discussing the book, The Pragmatics of Real Change, written by Jude Feranmi. Once again, the middle class appears to get the biggest bashing from the author. He challenges the middle class to rise to their responsibility of participating in politics and policy. He encourages them to engage and ask questions of the political class. He asks the middle class to discuss what can be done to organize and make demands, which would be in the form of letters, confrontation, protest, and even civil disobedience. Ultimately, he asks the middle class to get involved in politics. He says, and I quote, "Involving ourselves in the polity will save us a lot of costs, both present and future, and will ensure our dream of a better nation is realized." End of quote. In this book, Jude challenges us to rework the Nigerian dream. He condemns that notion by many that even if society keeps getting bad, their own dream is to become prosperous in spite of that bad society. Instead, he advocates that we should start dreaming of a good society where people are willing to work hard and find it conducive and rewarding for their efforts to come into fruition, so that anybody can choose to be whoever they want to be. In this 12-chapter book, the author dedicates a chapter to address the citizens. He says that the office of the citizen is the highest office in the land, where democracy is practiced, and in all hierarchies, leadership is expected usually from the highest office. In what sounds like strong indictment, the author states that, I quote, "There are no occupants of the highest office in the land, hence no leadership." End of quote. He noted that in a bid to put the blame on someone else, we have shelved our responsibility of leadership and we have delegated our responsibilities and duties to servants who are expected to be accountable. He laments that rather than scrutinize those who put themselves out for elective offices, what we do is pray that whoever emerges as president or governor is someone who can deliver. So he sets out what the citizens can do, such as the need to get together and discuss what can be done to avert doom and getting involved. He also writes extensively about the things young people can do to make Nigeria better, the power of collaboration, irrespective of and beyond political affiliations. In the final sentence of the book, Jude Feranmi states that he is tired of lamenting about what needs to be done to make this nation better. He states that he has decided to do something political about the problems. This is the invitation to the reader of this book as well. Ultimately, the book, The Pragmatics of Real Change, is a well-written work filled with potent insights and blueprint for making informed decisions which are capable of helping us to realize the Nigeria of our dreams, a Nigeria where everything will work for everybody, a better Nigeria. You are still listening to Book Splash, and this is the time to welcome my guest to the microphone. Jude Feranmi, popularly called JFK, speaks about the book, what occasioned it, and his thoughts on politics in Nigeria. Let's talk about the book. This book was published in 2018. Tell me, what occasioned the book?
I think we should start from the year of the book. I wrote it in 2018. And 3 years before that, I had been national youth leader for COA Party. I had been engaging a lot of young people, not just like teenagers or students on campuses, but young professionals, people in their 30s and even at times people in their early 40s. What I heard mostly from these kinds of people was that we want to make Nigeria a better place. We want to change the country. We want to do our bit. And the aspirations of the everyday Nigerian that want to live in a country that looks like America or the UK. And some basically stop at saying this is our aspiration and don't do anything about it. Some others go ahead to say this is our aspirations and then go ahead to do some charity, gather some young people together, train them in a way. Some even give scholarships. And what I realized was that when we combine those two categories of people, it is not enough. It was not, and right now it is still not enough to have people say that I want our country to change. There has to be an how to making our country a better place, and there has to be actions that have to be taken. Not just actions that have to be taken so that we can say, okay, I have to at least doing something. You know, there's a way that you can say that this is what I want, and you can go about being busy about doing something to get it, and you still won't get it. So I saw a lot of that, and I felt it was important to put my thoughts together and give a lay down of how we need to realize that aspiration that we have, which is a new and better Nigeria. Okay. And that's what occasioned the book.
Okay, so you state in your book that we have not been asking the hard questions. I assume that that's probably why we are still on the same spot in this country.
Yeah.
And your book seems to push us to the level where we'll begin to ask the hard questions. But it seems even asking the hard questions don't seem enough in this country. What exactly is wrong with us?
You know, there's this phrase that they say, the elephant in the room. And there's a way that you can say you want to have a meeting and everybody comes together and everybody talks about everything aside the main issue that we all know this is the elephant in the room. The way I say it is that Nigeria's problems are political problems and they require political solutions. And for me, that's the elephant in the room. General Achebe said Nigeria's problem is clearly that of leadership, not just leadership, blanket leadership, but political leadership. And like I said, one of the reasons why I wrote the book was because I saw a lot of people who wanted to change Nigeria, but did not want to have that conversation about political leadership. So you have corporate people who have worked in the banks or in the financial sector, in the insurance industry, in the technology, hospitality, entertainment, real estate for years, right? And they're saying, well, we have to do something better than what we have now. But we are going to talk about everything and every way and every approach apart from changing our political leadership. And that's the hard question that I've not been, asking. Ask the average young person on the street and ask them about the conversation between them and their parents about politics in our country. And you would hear that the average answer would be to focus on whatever it is that you're doing. And in fact, don't depend on government. I think that's the way it comes across. Don't rely on government. Government has no agenda for you, and the political leadership of our country is not thinking about you. And if you want to change Nigeria, you have to change Nigeria without changing the government. Like you said, we've not been asking the hard questions, and that's why we are where we are today. It's been 57 years since independence. A lot of people have written about the trouble with Nigeria. If you go to the bookshop and look for books talking about what the problem is with Nigeria, we know the problems. The problems are clear. People have written about it. It's one singular problem. Right? But we've not been willing to engage that conversation. And that's why we've been on this spot for the number of years that we've been here.
You said that everybody knows the problem. Are you sure that it is not the symptoms that we are seeing and assuming that they are the problems?
To answer that question, I think one of the chapters of the book, A Cycle of Woes. And I start that chapter by saying it will be difficult and almost impossible to label some problems as the problems of Nigeria and say that once they are solved, Nigeria's problems will be solved. When you talk about the symptoms, you say, okay, what's Nigeria's problem? Someone will come and say corruption is our problem. Once you take corruption away, the problem is going to be solved. Or someone will tell you that the problem in Nigeria is law enforcement. That is because the laws are not enforced. That if you take the laws, if all the laws in Nigeria are being enforced, in fact, they'll go ahead to tell you that our lawmakers don't need to make new laws. That we have enough laws in Nigeria to institute law and order. And then if we are able to enforce all our laws, Nigeria will be a better place. And then the person who is doing corruption will tell you that the reason why we cannot enforce our laws is because our law enforcers are corrupt themselves. So we have to stop corruption. And then another person will come and tell you that the problem is the judiciary. And there's no longer hope for the common man, and justice is bought, and any society without justice is not a society that will progress. And these will be valid points and valid arguments for what the problems are. But what I have said is in that chapter is to say it's more like a cycle of woes that are interconnected, that we have to scrutinize very, very carefully and then prescribe a solution that is how we go ahead.
You mentioned the middle class as key to our salvation. I mean political salvation.
I mentioned the middle class, I think, in one of the chapters. I think I even dedicated a whole chapter to that.
A whole chapter.
And what is clear to me immediately is that, first of all, there's an analogy that says you cannot help the poor if you're one of them. And I think that is irrational, because if you are poor in yourself, then, or if you are lost in poverty, then it becomes very difficult for you to save yourself and others from poverty. You need someone from the external, right? And the upper class society, they are so invested in the status quo. So what you have is that you have a middle class that is neither too invested in the status quo, and they are also not too impoverished to make the kind of efforts that you need to make political change happen in the country. Take this from me, any society that has gone from being a third world country to being a first world country have had the middle class taking active participation in that process. From Cuba, in all the revolutions that they've had in Cuba, to Japan. And every society that you look at and say, this society has gone from this point, look at Singapore, for example, right? Singapore's story is literally a story of the middle class coming together to say, we are going to work with this prime minister to make our country a much, much better place than it is right now. So any society, to be honest, not just Nigeria, any society that wants to move away from this is the kind of country that we have and want to move towards this is the kind of country that we desire, there is no way that you can do that without the middle class. Okay. No way.
You insist that we need to break all boundaries. Everybody needs to be on the table to discuss the problem of Nigeria and solve it. We have to go beyond politics. We have to go beyond religion or ethnicity and the rest of it. And in the middle of this, you also have the middle class. I am wondering about something. The middle class, a lot of times you want to say that they form the group you call the intelligentsia in this work. Okay, but intelligentsia seem to also be apathetic towards politics. They just analyze. They don't take part because of fear of violence and the rest of it. It looks like we'll still be traveling the same way. And besides, some members of the middle class may just, come upon big money and then they become godfathers, and then we go back to square one.
That's the hard work that we have to do. And I think that's my answer to that question. It is hard because, like in my opinion, there are those who say that the masses, for example, can have a revolution and can revolt, and look at what the Arab Spring did in the Middle East, and can have something like that. But in my opinion, that is a long way and a more unsure way to get to the kind of country that you desire, because revolutions are not beauty pageants. They are violent, they destroy society, and there's a cost of rebuilding society after every revolution, after every serious revolution. I mean, the Middle East is another testament to that, right? For real change to happen, there's a requirement that a particular fraction of that middle class comes together and say, this is what we want our society to be like. So not necessarily everybody has to come together. In the end, every sustainable change has to involve and be inclusive of majority of the people. But the way that it starts is a crop of the middle class of our society coming together to say, this is the kind of country that we want. And this is why we are interested in having this kind of country. And this is how we benefit from this kind of country. And then in the end, you realize that what happens is the middle class comes up with the programs and the ideas and the activities, and then mobilizes the lower class of people. Now, if you look at the masses, right, a lot of people say, and this is an example I made when I was running for office in Osun State. I said that politicians pay political talks to cause violence because they have the resources to do that. Now, the political talk would collect that money and go out on the street, because what is motivating him is the money that he is collecting, not because he doesn't know that the politician also has a son that is his age that could also be doing that kind of a thing, right? But it's motivated by money. The point also is that you can also have that process in the reverse and actually incentivize people who are likely to be political talk with money to not go out to cause violence. What is clear in that process is that the lower class of our society, of in fact of any society, can be mobilized and incentivized for any particular ideal. The point I'm trying to make is that you can mobilize lower class anytime once you are ready.
The book is The Pragmatics of Real Change. Jude Feranmi is still with me. I want to come to a part of your book, the last few pages. It looks like we run a Messiah democracy. On page 189, you write here, I have also said the solution to Nigeria is not a man with integrity, or a man with so much good luck, or a man with the strongest iron fist. The solution to Nigeria's many woes is us, a collection of passionate Nigerians working together. We have been looking for men of integrity for so long. So you now say that that's not the way to go. The way to go is a collection of passionate Nigerians working together. Based on the psyche of the average Nigerian middle class, do you think we'll be able to get people passionate enough about the Nigeria that will deliver the goods for everybody, men, women, boys and girls, including the people in the minority?
We want people who would say this is the kind of Nigeria that we want, and then would put in their investments and resources to saying, let us come together and shape the society the way that we want it to be. We are looking forward to those kind of people from the middle class. The solution that I foresee is that there is a new economic system that is shaping up in our generation. And that's because the economic sectors that control capital in our country, right, are traditional sectors. And these sectors are sectors where the captains of industry, the current people in the upper class have absolute control over. But these traditional sectors are now getting old, and we're now having new emerging sectors that technology is now enabling, that is now bringing up new economic elites or a new economic middle class that does not need the permission of the old upper class for them to thrive. And that's where my hope lies, that we can now find people within this class that will now say, this is the kind of country that we want, and we're going to put all our resources to make it happen.
In the last election cycle, a lot of people came up and they were using the word disruption. Would you align with that philosophy?
To be honest with you, I think that something that is a valid philosophy, not just economic disruption, but also political disruption. It might take a while before we see that, because most of the times, like, I like to take Karl Marx is a very, very good economist, good philosopher, maybe wrong in his political assertion, But he says that those who control the economic power also control the political power of any society. And that is a very, very valid assumption. And once we have an economic disruption of our society and we have new economic sectors enabled by technology and a new middle class that is evolving in our generation, then you can be sure that the political disruption will follow.
You contested election in Nigeria at the local government level in Osun State. Tell me, what was your takeaway from the experience?
My takeaway from the experience is that our political atmosphere is still largely controlled by people that basically want power for having power's sake, or because they want to have access to the resources of our society, not because they want real change to happen. The assignment for this current generation, especially for people in their 30s and their 40s, is to ensure that we evolve a system of democracy where we are able to elect competent leaders. That's the assignment.
Why did you include the word change in your title?
A lot of people came to me and they were like, the word change has been bastardized in Nigeria. And because of the expectations that people had with the 2015 election, the word change is not something that people want to hear anymore. But that's what people want, real change. And if there's anything that is constant within the epoch of time, within geographical locations on this planet, in the universe, it is change.
So how long did it take you to write the book?
It took me about 2 months to finalize the book. But the book is a collection of my thoughts over time. It's a collection of all my political thoughts on how we need to move Nigeria forward, starting from the basics of what exactly is the problem, how can we change that, and what actions we need to take going forward.
That was my conversation with Jude Feranmi, author of the book, The Pragmatics of Real Change, Thoughts on How to Realize a New and Better Nigeria. I hope you found it enlightening. If you did, please join me next Saturday, same time, for another edition of Book Splash on Splash FM 105.5 Ibadan. I thank you for listening, and thanks to Victor Daudu, my sound manager. If you have a comment or query, please send me a text message, or if you have a comment or query, please send me a text message on 0805 699 8676 or email m.olatunbosun@splashfm1055.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike Tumbosun. I am Michael Olatunbosun, and I urge you to please make this season a season of books.